Within our souls, we all possess a dream which lay dormant until intrigue strikes its match and sets the torch we carry ablaze, leading us down the path of the unknown towards our dreams. As coaches who are former high-performance athletes, our personal experiences have shown us that a coach, parent, or even a fellow athlete have the potential to either illuminate or extinguish the dreams of young athletes. Nothing is lost from the candle which lights another. We are here to share our stories and our passion to illuminate the champion within, empowering coaches, parents, and athletes to keep the flame of their dreams burning eternally. You are listening to Illuminating Champions with Michal and Ashley Anton.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Illuminating Champions. For our first-time listeners, my name is Ashley, and I'm here with my husband, Michal.
Hey, how are you?
And we also have a very special guest with us who's going to be interviewing us today. He is our personal coach and mentor. He is our brand artist, and his name is Mark Patterson. Hi, Mark.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Mark.
So in today's episode, we would like to cover the theme of the importance of parents in the lives of their child in the situation that the child is partaking in a sport competitively or recreationally, and help parents discover all the ways they can illuminate the lives of their child through the sport that they're doing. So Mark's going to help us out by asking us some important questions to help us develop these topics for parents to follow along.
We'll get started. I'm a big fan of your coaching style, as you know, and I like the way that you define sports as a way for children to grow in all kinds of ways. So let's talk about how sports build perseverance and the concept of discipline in a young person's life.
Sure. So sports are pretty much the best way for a child to discover that they have these abilities of persevering and that they have the ability to have discipline. And that's because sports are exciting for them. It's a fun way for them to learn those two aspects of life without them really feeling the pressure of learning them. So they're masked by the fun that they're having. And it's really important that the child learns to love a challenge. This is one of the obstacles that we face as coaches in today's world, is that children are starting to fear challenges more than they are excited to tackle them. And for parents at home, I think you need to realize that taking on a sport is the first time your child is going to encounter a big challenge and one that's very dear to their heart. And that's a lot to handle emotionally as a young child. And the good part is every single time they go to practice and they're working on building their skills, it is a challenge for them. So it's the perfect environment for them to learn how to overcome that sensation. But they do need your help, and they need your inspiration, and they need that comfort of just keep trying one more time. They need to learn that if they attempt something and it doesn't come out right the first time, that doesn't mean they can't do it. That doesn't mean they're bad at it. It just means they're learning it. And this is something that parents can help prepare the child to take on by talking to them before practice, just reminding them that they're proud of them, and just to keep trying and listen to the coach and be proud of every single little step they make. I think it's important for kids to realize that along the way of learning one big skill, they're going to be mastering it step by step, just like in school, they master their academics step by step. It's the same thing in any sport, particularly in gymnastics, where it is very detail oriented and precise. You know, in learning a cartwheel, there's so many steps of making it perfect that the child can celebrate every single turn they take and just celebrate the fact that they tried to do it the way that the coach said. And this is something that parents really, really can help their children with, is creating that fire in them from home, that it's exciting to learn. It's exciting to have the chance to master something, because if it just came easily, they'd be bored and it wouldn't be fun any longer.
That's a great way to look at it. So if they look at every part of their sport or their training as a challenge of some kind, and then mastering that trick or that thing that they need to learn they've learned to overcome a challenge, and that builds the strength. That's pretty good philosophy.
Right. And, within that concept, if the child is moving past a recreational environment and they're beginning to be in a competitive setting, a lot of kids fear competing at first because they're afraid to lose. That's one of the first questions that kids always ask me when I'm like, you're getting ready to compete. Are you so excited? This is what it's going to be like. And then all of a sudden it hits them. Oh, well, we could win medals, right? Yeah, you can have the chance to win a medal. And then the next question is always, well, what if I don't? And that's always a conversation that we take the time to have within our gym. But it's important that it also happens at home. And it's important that a parent remind their child that just the fact that they have the courage to pursue something so great and pursue something that is a dream for them is very brave, which is very honorable, especially coming from a young child. So that should make them feel proud, just the fact that they tried, because not everybody has the courage to go out there and perform, especially when it's an individual performance like in gymnastics, where it's just you and the audience and everyone's watching you and they see all your mistakes and all your perfections as well. It's very raw, and that's a lot to handle emotionally. And always in that setting, they need to take away the positive that they learned from it. If they go to a competition and it wasn't their best day, or it was their best day and someone else just happened to do better than them, they don't need to walk away from that feeling like a failure, because one, they were brave enough to pursue doing it. And two, they've learned so many other things. So the discussion afterwards always should be, well, what did you learn? Not always just focus on, well, what place did you come in? Oh, you need to do better at that. Well, that's true. But also, what did you notice about your performance? What did you do well? Even if, I'm going to use gymnastics, even if you did your beam routine and you fell off 3 times, in between falling, what did you do well? And most importantly, after the fall, did you stand back up and perform with a champion mindset? Like you just brushed it off your shoulder and you kept going, proud of yourself, and were able to move on, because that's a huge concept that they can carry with them in life. You can stumble, but that doesn't mean you need to fall down and stay there permanently.
I like that.
Right.
I like that phrase that you said, in between falling, because if you look at life, there's a lot of falling in life.
Oh, yeah.
Look,
You
with
learn
falling
from-
in gymnastics, in 2007 was the first Italian world champion, Vanessa Ferrari.
Mhm.
She was on the first place. From the first event, I think she took the lead in the all-around final, right? And she was the first one to win for Italy. Like, she will make history. And she got to beam. She fell, she stood up, and she did her routine. She ended up winning all around. If after the fall, she just sit down over there and didn't stand up and didn't keep doing her routine, what she had to do, we will never talk about Vanessa Ferrari being a world champion. We will talk about a girl maybe that one time she had a chance to be something big and she never achieved it. They will not maybe even remember her today, But that girl didn't give up in that moment when she fell. Understand? She looked at what she had to do. She stood up, she kept going, and she kept trying, and she ended up still winning, because she was ahead of everybody enough that with the fall she still did decently good.
That's the perseverance at.
And you see that in gymnastics a lot.
Mhm.
Like it's another example, like a very famous Russian athlete, Nemov, right? Alexei Nemov was a European championships, I think. And in boys gymnastics, we have 6 events. And I think his last event was high bar. Very spectacular. He was the world champion. I don't know if he competed already the 96 Olympics. It was after the Olympics, I think. He was already like a medalist at the world level on high bar. Like, he had very spectacular high bar. He was known for that. And he was in the first place. He led the competition, the whole entire competition, from the first event to the 6th event, right? He got to high bar and he fell like 4 times. Now the point is, like, the guy behind him that still try to do his routines, end up winning, becoming European champions. And the guy that everybody expect to win didn't win because he had a bad day. You know what I mean? Like,
because the one that was behind didn't focus on the fact that he was behind, which is another important aspect in just learning for every child. Sometimes they come to practice and they look at another gymnast and they start comparing themselves, and that child maybe learns something a little bit more easily or faster than they do, and they get fixated on this fact, and then they hold themselves back just because their mentality is, I'm not as good as them and I stand no chance. And in the case that you brought up, if that athlete thought like that at the beginning of their competition, they wouldn't have been able to surpass that thought and focus enough to prevail over who was ahead of them, even with the mistakes that that person made.
but you see, like, even with Nemov, like, after that competition, he came back and he became world champion. The point is this, like in life, in general life, not just athletic life, you are going to succeed and you are going to fail. I said it before, like, you can be an investor on the stock market and you can be the Warren Buffett is that guy named that does very good investment in America. Yes, whatever. I cannot pronounce it correct, but 100% sure that guy doesn't always make money with his investments. He puts money on some stocks that sometimes he loses, sometimes he wins. He wins more than he loses because he has experience, but it's the same thing with everything in life. You know, you cannot just, the second you didn't do well, you just give up because you're not good enough. No.
Right.
Keep working, keep trying. You see, we go back to discipline. Discipline is very important. That's what parents has to teach their kids, is discipline. Because discipline is what makes you work very hard, have that work ethic. Understand?
So a lot of these things you talk about, depending on how good our parents were, we might not have developed those skills ourselves. We not be as disciplined as we should be, or as perseverant in striving at things, or we may focus too much on winning. Or I like what you just said, compare ourselves to others. My goodness, that's a terrible thing. We always go around and to young people, peer pressure is so terrible. And so in your gym, I know you try and work with all those things to help your kids become champions of life, by being aware of that. And I think it's just starting with awareness,
Yes.
Look, I'm going to go a little back here, and I'm going to not correct you. I don't like to say correct you, but I'm going to tell you something about comparing with others. You should compare yourself with others, but in a positive way. You see, like, you have to learn to make that comparison positively, not negatively. Because what gives you the image of what's good? The one that's ahead of you, right? You always look at the champion. Like in gymnastics, we look at Simone Biles. Everybody compares themselves with Simone Biles because she was the best in the world at her time. She was the world champion. Everybody wants to beat her. Understand? Then when they make a routine, and execute a routine, they compare it with Simone Biles. Automatically, you make a comparison. But that comparison has to be positive. It cannot be negative. Like you beat yourself down because you look at the other one and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that one. She's so good, or he is so good. Yes, he is or she is so good. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do this and this and this, whatever the training is or whatever the program is. And I'm going to try to be better than them. Gymnastics, it's a comparison sport. Life is comparison. Like when you go to get a job in a corporation and you want to be the CEO, you're going to have there 30 or 40 candidates. The person that owns the company is going to compare you with another 40 people that are as smart, as good, as hungry as you. Then you have to have that comparison a little bit, because otherwise you're not gonna know where you stand. Make sense? You're gonna go in like if you go in a battle as a soldier, you compare yourself with other army, right? Like you're not gonna bring 10,000 soldiers in a fight with 1,000,000 soldiers. Like you're gonna have to have that comparison, but it has to be done positively. It cannot be done in the way that's destructive. That's where is the secret of even putting pressure on the young child in sports in general, right? Because academics, it's a little bit different. But in sports, putting pressure, it's a little bit different, because you can put pressure and break them, or you can put pressure and lift them up. And it's a fine line. And the parent has to pay attention. Of course, the coach is the one that has to pay attention to that. But the parent has to pay attention to their child too with that, and pick up on when it's too much, and what the child needs.
Well, they can help with this concept a lot at home, because those type of discussions about when it is a comparison of yourself to someone else, they normally happen in the house. They don't really happen in front of the coach. They happen directly with the parent, because that's who the child confides in their deepest emotions. So that is where the parent can step in and
Right.
point out the person that they're looking at, well, they're doing a really good job. That's something that you can admire, and that's something that you can aspire to be like, but you have your own great qualities, and you need to remember to focus on what it is that you personally need to achieve and what you personally need to improve on. And then you'll be on your own path. But it is true, you do always have to recognize who is doing well, and you can't be jealous of them. You have to support them, and you have to be proud for them, just like you would for yourself, and you'd want other people to be for you. So that's a huge concept that we face every day in the gym, but it is something that a parent can help tremendously with, and they really are the guiding light of the child, figuring out those emotions and being constructive with them and not destructive,
Yes.
as Mihail said. And all of this education about how you should perceive things or how you should behave when you're in the gym, it really does start at home. That has to be an expectation that the parent sets, that they pass along to the child, and the child can just walk into practice knowing this is what's expected of me behaviorally. This is what I would be proud of if I behaved like, and I can be a positive role model to others by behaving very well, even if I'm not the best athlete here.
1 second, because you see, I'm gonna say like something I think parents know now by now, but it's like a coaching secret. When they make the Olympic team in USA, most of it, right? Because this is a fair environment where they make this. I think the fairest out of all the other countries that they have Olympic teams. In America, the choosing system for the team, it's pretty fair. It's done by comparison. Mm-hmm. They compare those athletes to one another, and they put the best ones in the team. Understand? Then if I have someone, even in my gym, I compare my athletes to one another. That's how I put someone in a higher program. That's how I make someone try harder tricks. That's how I push someone in a higher level. Understand? It's comparison. But
to measurement.
Yes, because that's what gives you the measurement. But cannot be done destructively. Like the athlete cannot be destructive with himself or herself by being compared with someone else or comparing themselves with someone else. Always has to be done positively. And the parents can teach them that by allowing them to understand that, yes, someone can be better than you.
Right.
Understand you. It's good for you to want to be better than someone else, but you also have to be aware of what comes with you improving yourself to that point that you are better than the person that you are looking up to. Understand? And that's always work. And that's always discipline.
So training the rest of the whole gamut from the physical nature of learning the moves, etc., but also training yourself in mindset and manners. And you have a lot of discussion about how your coaching has to blend with the parenting. So if the parents thinking runs counter to what you're doing or vice versa, it's not going to be the best outcome for the child. So you just always have to remember, though, that being a parent myself, parenting is an on-the-job training. You don't know when you get started. There's so much you have to learn. But I really like this idea that you're saying that parents strive to make sure the kids have good education, good place to live, and clothing, etc. But that's the bottom tier of what kids need to learn as they go through life. This idea of manners, discipline, getting along with others, learning to fail. It's a fantastic component of your coaching that I think, in a way, as you're coaching the kids, you're coaching the parents a bit too.
Parents are coaches too. You see?
Yes.
Parents are coaches too. They just coach their own child.
Yeah.
And they have more depth into doing so. Then it's very important for a parent to do that.
Right.
Understand?
The parent is the primary life coach. We're the gymnastics coach with an enhancement of life coaching. So we're working together. It is a partnership. And all of those aspects of listening well, wanting to work hard, wanting to pay attention to your coach, wanting to be a model of good behavior. Those things start at home, and they really do add greatly to the child's performance, because if the child is educated at home that they are expected that when they come into practice, just like when they go to school, they listen to their teacher and it's explained to them, well, if you listen very closely to what your coach or your teacher is saying, then you're going to have an easier time learning what it is that they're asking to do. And then you're going to benefit from that because you're going to do well. Or it's also going to help them be more attentive and more detailed. And in a sport like gymnastics, that is the primary focus. Of course, the system, as everyone knows, the perfect 10. I know in elite gymnastics, now we go above 10. But in USA Gymnastics, prior to elite, we still work off a 10.0 system, and they do still in elite for their execution score. So every single little teeny tiny detail is looked at. Everybody knows down to your pointed toes. So every little mistake that you make, it comes off of that 10.0 score. So it's very important for the kid to learn to be detail oriented. And that starts at home too, because if they know that there's a high expectation that they pay attention when they're in the gym and they strive to do things well, if that's taught to them at home before they arrive, they're going to hold themselves more accountable to it, and then they're going to be more successful in the end. And of course that passes on in life and in school. They're going to go to school and they're going to pay better attention to their teacher, because they're going to learn to strive to be the best that they can be, or the best one in their class. That's even better. And they're going to pay attention to all the little details that allow them to learn.
Now, I repeat myself. I said it many times till now, but you have to strive to be the best. You always have to do that. You have to want to be the best of the best, but be okay with your best. Understand? Like, if your best was not the best of the best, be humble about it, be respectful about it, be happy for the one that did better, because obviously they work hard, or they just, I don't know, they did something better than you. Obviously, that's why they are there. Go back, and if you like what you did, try it again and do it till you master it and your best becomes the best. If not, try something else, but always try to be successful, because nobody on this planet that's a multi-billionaire want to be just, I don't know, let's say mediocre, right? No, they want to be the best. Like, if you talk with a billionaire, his attitude is to be the best. Understand? They are very, how to say it, aggressive personalities, but in a positive way. And they want to be successful. They want to work. They want to do things done correctly. When it's time, boom, 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 everything, right? They wake up in the morning early. They start work early. They make sure that they do their work perfectly. And then they look for the fun part and other things. You know?
So it sounds like what you're saying is the child has to have expectations about what they can do, what they want to do. The parents have expectations, and you have expectations. So it's kind of a marriage of all that.
Yes.
Right.
So do you ever have one-on-one or group discussions with the parents about trying to create this understanding and partnership in coaching?
Yes, we do. We personally have team meetings in our gym, and many teams do this. We also provide like a packet of information to parents, and the primary content in this packet is having to do with behavioral tips. It's other information that's necessary, like what competitions we're going to and how much things cost. But the bulk of what's in there is advice, just like this. And the reminder that we are all in this together. We say that we're a trinity, and, the athlete is at the point, and then there's the coach and the parent down making the bottoms, and we all lift that athlete to rise to the top. So that's the way we present it to our parents. Of course, everyone does this in their own particular way, but parents should know that as coaches, we're honored to work with their children, and we're happy to help them allow their child to rise. But it is something that we have to work together on. And we do need to have great communication so that the parent is knowledgeable of what we're expecting of their child.
And
from
also what they are expecting for their child.
Right.
Sure.
We also have the opposite conversation with our parents, particularly if the child is in a setting where they're going to be on a competitive team, we always ask, well, what is their goal, or what is your goal as a parent with your child? Because the child is very young, and sometimes it's not sometimes, all the time, the parent is initially the navigator of the child's path, and they should be, because it's easier for them to foresee the long term than it is for their 5-year-old. They're more aware of the possibilities and benefits the child can gain from doing whatever activity that they're doing. So the parent has to help the child navigate their goals. If the child's loving a sport, then I always say, why not let them try to compete it? It's not going to hurt them, even if down the road they're like, you know what, I want to try something different. There's going to be so many positive gains that they take away from the pursuit of what they're doing. Then let them try, and just go along with them and support them, and let them enjoy the process of learning.
Yeah. Because the parent has to allow their child to struggle at a young age, especially in sports. Sports are the best, in my opinion, the best environment for a young person to learn to struggle physically and emotionally. You know what I mean? Because you go to training, you struggle physically because the training is hard physically, and then you struggle also emotionally because you have to go through that hard work, right? But then it's a different ball game. You go to compete. It's a different emotional struggle, right? Because now you go to competition, you didn't win, you come in last place, your teammates are getting trophies, competition after competition after competition, you don't get one. Now you're not good enough in your, understand, you start thinking about yourself that you're not good enough, you want to give up, you want to quit. Then those things can teach you to be mentally very, very strong, very tough, if you get the right guidance, understand? And it's very important for the parents to allow their child to have that type of struggle a little bit, as long as it's not done mean. Like you go to, I don't know, a sport and the coach picks you up from the beam and pulls you on the mat and swear at you. And that's a different talk. But just because you go there and you struggle and you're not the best of the best, you don't need to give up. You have to learn to work harder. You have to learn to go through that process, because you see, we talked in the past about being a champion in life, right? Without winning a gold medal in the Olympics. Yes, you obviously you can be a champion in life, right? By just going through that process, you learn that discipline, you learn that behavior of a champion, of working hard, or having dedication, not giving up, going through fears, how to conquer fear, right? Because fear is what makes us, most of the time, not even start things. A lot of people don't even try to start something because they are afraid of not being capable to do it. Not even competing in something. Just try to, I don't know, do 100 push-ups. Like, I cannot do 100 push-ups. Guess what? Everybody can do 100 push-ups. Do 5 today, 5 tomorrow, 7 next week, and 10 2 weeks after, and then next month you're going to do 25, and by the end of the year you're going to have enough strength and endurance to do 100. It's the same thing with everything else. You need that discipline behind to not give up, and the parents can teach their kids that by putting them in sports.
There's something that we talked about a bit, that sure, there's the great side of when the trinity is working well, the child is inspired, the parents are aligned with you, everything is working, and the kid's having a good day. But there's a bad day, or a lopsided triangle. The child may have the talent, but just say, I don't want to do it today. I'm just not going to do it. Or the parent may say, I don't like what you're doing. How do you deal? Because I know you have to do it. How do you deal with the negative aspects of the communication, where parent doesn't like what you're doing, or a coach or a child doesn't understand? I'm sure that comes up. How do you deal with it? And what would you say to the other parts of the Trinity when that happens?
Normally in my gym, my parents are very open in talking to us and approaching us. But for other parents, my advice is, when they have a problem like that, they should talk to the coach that directly coach their child first.
As opposed to talking to the other parents out in the lobby and getting everything.
Yes, I understand.
And
And even for the gym owners, like that's another mistake that, in my opinion, happen here in US, because you have a gym owner and you have the coaches, right? In my gym happened that I'm the gym owner and the coach. Like I'm the guy that you're going to talk with no matter what. And I work with everybody from classes to team. Like I like to know everything that happened in my gym, and I like to work with every child because I want to give everybody the same opportunity, right? Then it's much easier to talk to me. But in other gyms, the owner is the one I'm going to go and have the conversation, but he doesn't have all the inside of that relation between the athlete and the coach, because he's going to go to the coach and ask, okay, what happened, right? And the coach is going to be like, you see, I told her or him that I'm not going to move them up in level, right? And he asks why, and then by the time he talks to the parent, now he's going to kind of like, I don't want to say mean, but he's going to try to, in one way, to make him look good as a gym owner, right? And then the coach gets left out. And the message that the coach has sometimes get lost in words, because he's going to have to explain something that someone else is explaining him. And
So
when that happens...
So the answer is direct communication.
Yes, and direct communication.
And realizing that things are never going to go perfectly for everything.
Perfect, you know?
Yeah, and everybody, okay. That's
like
good.
In my gym, like I'm very honest with parents. Like I have kids, I put them, like I have some, I'm always like very imaginative,
yeah.
Yes. And I always like put some programs each day. I try to like boost kids up, right? And I have programs like when I put a kid in a program to fast track them a little bit, and then the child doesn't react to that program correctly, right? Obviously, I'm going to go talk to the parents. I'm going to say, okay, we bring them back to this type of training, understand? And we go this way. But the main goal in the end is still for them to try to achieve what they want, understand? But the parent then has to trust me.
Right. I'm just going to further what you're saying just to explain it a little bit more. As you said,
because
like the child doesn't react well to the training. That can mean many different things, but the most important thing is always how they're reacting to it emotionally.
Yes.
And we are the ones that really directly see that, because you're directly working with the child. So maybe from a distance and to an untrained eye, the child, she's still loving the sport. She wants to go to practice. She's learning, but as a coach, we always, like we said in prior episodes, you have to look deeper. So sometimes there's just certain behaviors that the child's having. You see that they're getting anxious, or they're not being consistent with performance, or they're second guessing themselves, or they're starting to develop nervous habits. Those are all things that you need to look out for as a coach. And that is what we take into consideration heavily when making any decision, especially when it's a scenario of moving somebody at a faster pace or to a higher level. That is the most prevalent thing that we look at, because we want that child always to have a healthy mental well-being. So sometimes you need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and evaluate, is this the best environment for the child? What is her best learning environment? And that's different for everyone. And that doesn't mean if a child is told that they need to step backwards or step into a different training style. Maybe there are kids that they train a little bit more one-on-one or in a very small group, and they don't do well like that because they get too emotional. They can't handle the pressure of it always being just them and just the coach, or them in a small group, because it's a different pressure to have that environment than it is to be in a larger group. And everybody's different. Some kids thrive in a smaller setting because they need that one-on-one attention. But you need to be aware of that. And you need to always relay to the parent, your decision is for the well-being of the child. That's what you care about most. And the parent does have to be receptive of that. They cannot be fixated on, well, I want her to be in this program because then she's going to be this level and she's going to attain this. The coach is not saying that that can no longer be her goal. They're just finding the right path for her personally to get her there.
And because otherwise you break that child, understand? Because look, I tell the parents all the time, and I tell the kids in the gym too, especially the kids, because I always tell my girls in the gym when I coach them, I coach you. You have to show me that you want to be good. As good as you want to. You show me. Mommy and daddy can tell me. And that's a secret for the parents. That's how a coach thinks normally.
Mm-hmm.
You as a parent, you come tell me, look, my daughter wants to go to the Olympics, right? I said, okay, I have to see her wanting that.
Through her work.
And that's through her work ethic, because it's not,
Right.
what skills she does. Oh yeah, you can throw a double out at 10 years old. But if you don't have that work ethic, if you don't have that desire, if you don't have that discipline, I know that the girl that does just around that handspring layout is gonna outclass you. She has all those qualities that I enumerate you don't have. Then as a parent, if the coach tells you those things and tells you about how your daughter has to change some behavioral things, you should be receptive, and you should try to help her. Understand?
And it always depends on the exact scenario. Like, this is a different conversation than just if the child came home and they said, I had a bad practice today, or this made me upset, or I'm frustrated about this. Those are different conversations, and they are things that the parent should let the coach know, so the coach can know how the child feels once they're out of their sight, and how they perceived the practice, and work together to help the child develop, if it's the need to develop a coping mechanism, like overcoming a fear, or overcoming doubt, or overcoming just negative thought about themselves. Those are discussions that need to be had, and the parent does have to work together with the coach, and there has to be a synchrony in what is told to the child, so the messaging can be the same, and then the child can thrive and use the messaging constructively, rather than becoming confused hearing one methodology from the coach and a separate methodology from the parent. They need to be very similar in order for it to be beneficial to the child. And that can only happen if either side, parent and coach, understand one another first.
Yes.
Sure.
You see, in the past, when I told you about coaches that they have to coach without their ego cannot get into coaching someone, right? It's the same thing for the parents. They have to be a parent, but without the ego, because that ego is what gonna make you push your child in the wrong direction. Understand?
Right.
And those are things we're gonna talk in other episodes about it. But that's very dangerous when that ego kicks in. And the one that always is on the other side of our adult ego is the child. Understand? That's why your ego has to be out of your thinking process when you deal with a child. Because that's what happened a lot. Like I see it to gymnastics. I have parents that came even in my gym, and they're like, oh, I want my daughter to train in this program. I want her to train with this girl, and I want her to do the same thing. I'm saying, yes, she needs to first do this, right? She needs a time to build up to get to that level. Then the parent is like, oh yeah, but I pay for it. I'm going to go to another gym. Okay. Because you asked me how I deal with the parents when they don't follow.
Yeah.
That's how I deal. It's simple, because it's America. It's a free country, I tell them, like, respectfully. I'm very honest. I'm very respectful when I ask a parent, and I tell them, like, okay, find another place where your child is going to be happy. Like, I know are places that's going to take your money and put your child in whatever program you want them to be, because it looks cool. But I know that your child is not going to be successful. I know that part too. Understand? Because I know they are not ready for that. Then if someone doesn't build their readiness for it, they're going to break. Then that I know. But it's your choice. I'm not going to keep you with force in my gym.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, just to think of this as the Trinity, like you said. I hadn't imagined it that way. I knew there were those components. But if everybody could keep that in the forefront of their mind, if the child realized that the other two were support mechanisms to help them, and the parent realized they were partnered with you. So all that being said, in our last minutes together here on this episode, what is your message to parents of how they can be the best part of that triangle?
Sure. So first, at home, you are there to be the support system for your child. You are there to uplift your child and teach your child at home to be excited to grow. Be excited to learn. Don't fear failure. There is no failure unless there's giving up or just not trying. It's learning. It's always a process, and you're there to celebrate every step of that process with them. And you're proud of them for trying to go through it, because they're brave to try to pursue what they dream. And on the other side of that, from parent to coach, be open with your coach, have great communication with your coach, listen to them, try to really, really feel where they're coming from, and take a closer look at their perspective, and know that that is coming from a professional place. At least it should be coming from a professional place. And always listen to that first before making any rash decision. Try to have a conversation, because conversing, you learning somebody else's point of view, or you're learning why they made a certain decision, or they can explain why they said something a certain way and what effect that they were expecting their words to have, even if accidentally they had a different effect. Then you can learn where they're coming from, and then you can go back and either explain things to your child and choose to continue forward with that same environment, or you can have really the full insight into the decision of maybe saying, well, maybe we're going to try a different environment, because as Michal said, we always tell our parents, we truly want you to love the environment in our gym, and we want you to be happy. I don't want you to stay here unhappy, because what's the point of doing that? You're not forced to stay anywhere. So if you're not happy, then you try something different, because it's just like anything else in life. Maybe you love one restaurant and I don't like it so much. It's the same when it's a coaching environment. It's just more personal, so it's more difficult to make that decision. But I think it's very fair for a parent to discuss what they're feeling, what their child's feeling. It's also necessary. And then from there, go on with any other decisions that they have.
Yeah, because the child is the one who does the sport or whatever activity is academically or artistic, is the child that does it, right? And I tell the parents all the time, and I tell my kids all the time in the gym. That's an example I give them. I ask them if they like ice cream, right? Everybody's like, I do like ice cream. I say, okay, what's your favorite flavor? And someone's like, I don't know, vanilla. And then I ask, okay, what's your least favorite? Like the one that you don't like? And I don't know, chocolate. And I said, okay, what happens if I every day give you chocolate ice cream, a bucket of chocolate ice cream? First day you're going to eat, second day you're going to eat, then you're going to throw up. You're not going to like it. You're going to hate ice cream at one point, although you like ice cream. It's the same thing with sports and other activities the child does. Understand? If I give you the wrong flavor of gymnastics, you're going to hate it. Then the parents has to trust me that I'm trying to give your child the right flavor. Then if I don't put them in that program that you want because look cool and everybody brags about, my daughter is in level 8, my daughter competes hopes, my daughter is a junior Olympic, right? Whatever names they have, those very nice big names for every program, right? And you want her there just because of that, then she's not going to like it. At one point, she's going to hate it. Then better off listen to the coach, take the steps that the coach tells you. If you trust the coach, and you should trust the coach, we'll go back to coaches being honest. You see how everything builds
on honesty.
Honesty.
Or like you said, if you don't trust the coach, find another way.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, and in that moment, like if you don't stay there. Don't bring your daughter back in a place where she's unhappy. Understand? And can be for many reasons. Can be the reason that she was not put in a program that she likes, or she was not in the same team with her best friend. The coach yell at her or whatever. The coach swear at her, or like, don't bring her back. Like, take her to a place where she's happy. Give her the right flavor of ice cream. Understand? And that's very, very important, and be respectful with the coaches for the parents. They have to be respectful.
Right. It's always very well received when, if you are parting ways, you are respectful and you're thankful of the work that the coach did with the child, because in the end of the day, they are spending a lot of time and they are emotionally invested in your child. And just because the relationship didn't work out doesn't always mean that they were having a malintent in coaching your child. So I think you need to just leave in a polite in, respectful way, and then move on and see what you like better.
And also for the coaches, they have to start being more honest with the parents.
Yes.
Understand?
Right.
And explain a little bit better what is expected from the kids and from the parents. Like,
do what you know is right.
If I put a kid in a high level program, I tell them before that, this is what it's going to take.
Okay.
You don't do it. You don't do it. Nobody's going to force you. I'm not here to force you to do it. This is the training. This is the expectations. It's you, the one that does it. I'm not magic. You are magic. That's what I tell all the time my athletes. I have no magic stick to be hocus pocus, bam. No, but you have the magic power to your work ethic, to your discipline. You make that magic moment when you become Olympic champion, not me, the coach. I'm the one, okay, I coach you, but without your work ethic, without your discipline, will not going to happen. Doesn't matter how good of a coach I think I am, or the other guy thinks he is, or she thinks she is. It's not going to happen if the athlete doesn't perform that job. Then it's coming down to the child to like it. And the parent and the coach has to work to make them like it. Get the right flavor of ice cream.
Well, that's back to your theme, illuminating champions. You got to help bring it out in them. Even a champion at 5 or 6 or 7 doesn't know they're a champion. They just think they're like everybody else. So it takes a good coach to see that.
But you see, at 5, 6 years old, if they are a champion, you know what happened? That goes in their heart. Even though they don't know the notion of it, goes in their heart. And by the time they are 8 and they are 9, they are very high confidence child.
That's good.
You see that in gymnastics, because you see it with little girls that do gymnastics, like they compete level 1 at 4 or 5 years old. And by the time they are 9 years old, when they go to competition and you see them walking into arena, it's like those little fighters walking like,
they have more of a presence than adults sometimes.
They carry that with them. Like, even they not yet aware of it.
Yeah.
You see it. Like,
that's an amazing rate of growth from someone 4 or 5 to 10 or 11.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, again, I'm a big fan. I think you've got a great coaching style, and I hope the parents are taking this in and learning how to be better coaches along with you.
I hope they don't get mad, but I said it from the beginning. I'm very honest. Like, I'm not the guy that's going to sugarcoat things, because then you eat the sugar, when you put the sugar on the cookies, you eat it. Like, I'm not a sugarcoating guy. I'm going to tell you how it is. And I think it's better because then you know where you stand. Understand?
Well,
honesty is always the best way to explain things.
Right. And our goal is exactly what we said in the beginning. It is to help illuminate the champion within the child
and the parent.
Right.
So we have to be honest about what we're saying, and we do hope that parents perceive our point of view, and they can take it however they choose to. But the notion of it is to help, of course. It is to benefit the child.
We're going to end in a note with parents being champion. I don't know if you watched the 2012 Olympics when Ali Reisman in London won floor. Her parents jump off that seat. Like, the guy behind told them to sit down. The guy didn't know that they are Ali Reisman parents. Why they did that? Okay, they was happy for their daughter.
Sure.
But they was taking in the feeling of the Olympic champions from the daughter. They was fueling out of that. Understand? At that moment, those parents did everything for that child to get to that moment, because that was her dream. And they guide her with everything they could to get there. And in the moment she succeeded, they felt the same way like she felt. I'm 100% sure.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling to have. You see, like, it's not just the child, it's also the parent.
Right.
Then it's the coach too.
Yeah. We're in it together. It is a trinity or a triad, whatever you want to call it.
It is. It's true. Yeah. The three of them has to work together. Not that even the three of them, it's the two of them. The parents and the coach has to work together very good in the support of the child.
Right.
The child is the masterpiece. Understand? Wow. They are the valuable. They are the diamond. Like, the parent and the coach works together to make that diamond $40 million.
That could never be the champion without each of those other support.
Right. Yes.
Without a great coach, without great parents, The child is just a talented child sitting in the back of the class.
Most of the time,
Right.
you get kids that are very good, very talented, work ethic like nobody else, and then the family is not there, and the parents are not there correctly, and then all that potential is gone.
Yeah,
Understand?
that's
And
another
I see
problem.
that in my now it's like almost 23 years career of coaching. Just
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I see it, and I see it as an athlete too. Like I have teammates that they
Sure.
was good, and the parents had, I don't know, alcohol problems and other things, and
Yeah.
we didn't have drugs in my country at the time.
Yeah.
But alcohol was, everybody drinks in Eastern Europe.
I think that theme is like what you're saying. Everybody has to be selfless in the face of their child pursuing their dream, and you really have to be invested in every
Yes.
single way. It can't just be, although you maybe drop them off at practice, you can't just drop them off and that's it, you're done with it. You need to be involved emotionally and conversationally with their coach and with the child. You need to be there, and you need to be aware of what they need in order to guide them correctly.
It's a partnership in recognizing, developing, and growing talent and potential, not in just in sports, but in making great people. So
Yes.
thanks again
Exactly.
for what you do. It's I just love talking with you about how you coach and your
Thank
stories
you.
of life. So
I know we can talk like 4 hours now in this subject.
Well, as always, Mark, thank you so much
you.
for your help today. You always bring the best out in us, and that's why we're so proud to have you as
yeah,
our coach, because you truly do illuminate us as coaches. So
Because like I
thank
said
you once
before,
again.
everybody needs a coach. Even the best of the best, they need a coach, because everybody has blind spots. I cannot see behind me.
right.
You know what I mean? Like I need someone who can tell me what's behind me sometimes, right?
Right.
Then that's another coach. It's you, in my case. You know,
Okay.
everybody needs someone to guide them
Right.
in moments. You know, and there's nothing embarrassing in having someone gives you advice.
Mhm.
Advice, you say, I'm gonna end on this note actually. And parents has to learn that too. Corrections and advice is something negative. It's true, it's negative, because you point out something that you are doing wrong, right? It's a negativity. You do something wrong, I say, hey, don't do that, right?
Mhm.
But has a positive outcome.
Mhm.
Why a coach, especially in gymnastics, it's so much correction, like point your toes, stretch your leg, put your hand up, do this, do that. Like a 6 years old in 30 seconds of half of the beam routine execution can get 30 advices. You know what I mean? And can be overwhelming, right? Because it makes you feel like, oh, I'm not good. This guy told me 30 things that I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean? But also the parent has to teach the kids that advices and corrections are a positivity, because they are there to teach them how to get better. Shows them what they did wrong and shows them what they have to do correct in order for them to get better.
Right.
Has a positive outcome, but start with a negative.
You have to balance that with positive support and
Yes.
celebrations and praise.
Yes.
And that's why it's important even for the parents to take the corrections from the coach. If the coach comes and tells you like, look, she should do this or he should do that, or you should pay attention to this with her. I don't know, even like resting. You have a girl that does elite gymnastics, she needs resting, right?
Right.
She cannot just run around all the time because she's going to be overexhausted, and her training is already overexhausting, and she needs that time off when her body can cool off. If the coach tells you that, you should listen, because that's an advice to help to have a positive outcome. Understand?
Mhm.
You cannot take correction personal.
Right. Exactly.
Makes sense, right?
It does make sense. And we hope that everyone listening into this episode can take our advice positively.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to tell anybody exactly how to do it or that they're doing it wrong. We're just sharing our personal experiences and letting everyone know what could be helpful to them and their child. So it is our honor to help every parent illuminate their child.
Listen, this is America. You cannot tell people how to do things. They are free. Let's end with this. It's free. People can choose what they want.
All right.
If they want to listen to this, they listen. If they don't. But you cannot force people to. I'm not here to force people to do things the way I want it.
Well,
thank you, Mark.
On that note, I think it's time we say a big thank you,
Thank you,
to
everybody,
Mark,
for
and
watching.
thank you, everyone,
And
for
thank you, Mark.
listening.
Thank you for listening to Illuminating Champions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next episode.